Hey y'all, it's Missniecytv, and I'm here to do a review for Sistas Season 8, Episode 22. The episode picks up with Calvin still at Sabrina's house, and they're still talking about everything that's going on with their lives. And Sabrina decided to tell him about everything that she's going through with her fertility journey. She decides to also tell him about how they can't use Rich's sperm and how she chose somebody else, and how Rich feels about it. Calvin's like, if Rich can't see that you had to do what's good for you, then that's on him. But you have to put yourself first. You always put yourself last, but this is a time in this situation where you need to put yourself first. As they're talking, Sabrina starts getting emotional and she goes to hug Calvin and she's like, I didn't realize how much I needed this visit. And as they're hugging, Rich busts through the door and he's like, am I interrupting something? Sabrina's like, no, this is just my friend Calvin. And Sabrina introduces Calvin to Rich and she's like, hey Calvin, this is Rich, my friend. Rich is like, so we friends now? Calvin and Rich shake hands and Calvin tells Sabrina that he's gonna leave. So once Calvin leaves, Rich and Sabrina have a conversation. And Rich feels some type of way because Sabrina introduced him as her friend. And Sabrina's like, well, that's how I feel. You ghosted me, you didn't answer my messages, you didn't take my feelings into consideration, and you basically made me feel like I wasn't going to see you no more. Rich is like, well, I did feel inadequate about the whole fertility thing and Damani. Rich is like, Sabrina, I'm sorry, you're my girl and I still love you, and I'm here to make things right and get us back to where we used to be. Then Sabrina brings up the whole Turks and Caicos thing, and Rich is like, so what happened? Sabrina's like, well, we got close. Rich is like, how close? Sabrina's like, we got pretty close. Rich is like, how close? Sabrina's like, well, nah. Then he was like, did y'all sleep together? Sabrina's like, no. And I feel like I shouldn't lead you on anymore. And you should be with someone that's not confused. Which is like, what you mean? Sabrina's like, I think we should just see other people. Rich is like, so this was a waste of my time. Sabrina's like, no. Rich starts getting emotional. And Sabrina tries to hug him and Rich just walks out the door. Sometime later after Rich leaves, Sabrina calls Danny and they have a conversation about everything that happened now. Her and Rich broke up and she was like, I just don't want to lead him on. And Danny, of course, has to make a joke, and she's like, well, at least you're not the only single friend in the group anymore. As they're talking, Sabrina's packing Rich's stuff up in a box, and she's smelling his t-shirts, and Danny thought that was his underwear, and Sabrina's like, no. Danny was joking, but she told Sabrina that she was going to tell Krish about it, and Krish is her therapist. Then they start talking about Karen and how she's happy with Aaron, and Danny, of course, brings up Tony, and she's like, I never thought that we would make it this far. Sabrina's like, are you happy? Danny's like, I'm happy now after we talked it out, and he realized that I'm just going to be who I am, and he can't really change me, and he wanted to change me. So I guess I'm just his little fix-up. Danny's like, I love my man, though, and I love him down. Danny is like, speaking to my man, he's at my door, so I gotta go, bro. Sabrina's like, okay. Over at Danny's, Danny hangs out with Sabrina, and Tony comes to the door, and Danny's trying to talk to him about getting something to eat and then getting down to business later. And Tony's like, as good as that sounds, I'm really not in the mood for that. Danny's like, what's wrong? Tony's basically like, it's a job. They're telling me that I was in the wrong too, and they're looking at me and investigating me. And Danny's like, so did they fire you? Tony's like, no, but they did put me on suspension though. Danny's like, why are they reprimanding and firing everybody else instead of finding the right person, which is Leonard? Tony's basically like, your guess is good as mine. If Leonard didn't start all these lies and stuff, then we wouldn't be in this predicament. And he could tell that something was wrong with Tony, and he had something to tell her, but he was just telling. Danny's like, well, the suspense is killing me, so just spit it out. Tony's like, well, I will be transferring to Alaska. Danny's like, Alaska, do they even have any niggas here? Tony's like, oh, well, I guess I'll just be the only one. Danny's like, so what you gonna do? Tony's like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. He's basically like, I could transfer to another company, but they won't probably pay me as much. And this good of a job is not easy to come. Danny's like, so what you gonna do? You can tell that they both want each other to say, stay for me. But Danny's not trying to be in his way, and him resent her. You can tell Danny's really hurt by this news, but she's really not trying to let her. Over at the law firm, we see Fatima come into Andy's office, and she's like, Andy, let me see your phone. Andy's like, why? Fatima's like, so I could put your location in my phone. So Andy, of course, gives Fatima the phone, and Fatima puts Andy's location in her phone. Andy's like, for what? Fatima's like, since you became managing partner, you have a bigger target on your back, and you could be in more danger. Andy's like, well, I never thought about it like that. Fatima's like, thank you very much, and she gets up to leave, and Fatima's like, Fatima's like, thank you very much. Oh, and I saw Robin earlier, and he apologized. Fatima's like, I just want to remind you that Robin's leaving for London later, so if you want to catch him, you better go now. Andy's like, well, I know you're not too keen on Robin, but I really like him, and I want to see how things go. But I don't know if I'm really deserving of love after everything that happened with Gary and Jordan. Fatima's like, well, you're very deserving of love, whether it's with Robin or somebody else. You definitely deserve love. Over at the jail, we see that Robin has made good on his promise and he was able to help Jordan get out of jail. Jordan goes over and hugs Penelope to have a little moment. Jordan's like, I'm just so happy that I'm out. Penelope's like, me too. This really feels like deja vu. Jordan tells Robin that he doesn't have to worry about him going anywhere. He's not going to flee the country or the state. Robin's like, that's okay, but I'm transferring your case to somebody else. Jordan tells Robin that he really appreciates all his help. Jordan, why you gotta be so fake? You was just talking about that man so bad. Now that he helped you out, you want to be all nice and stuff. Jordan leaves to go to the car and Penelope stays around to talk to Robin and thank him for everything that he's done. Penelope's like, you're a godsend, I don't know how to thank you enough. Next thing you know, she kisses Robin. Robin's like, Penelope, wait. And Penelope's like, let me guess, it's Andy, isn't it? Robin doesn't say nothing, but he definitely gives her a look. And Penelope's like, well, I hope she doesn't ruin your life like she did my brother. Penelope, you are so bitter and that's not a good look for you. Over at the law firm, Andy's about to leave for the day, so she goes in Fatima's office to tell her. Andy's very emotional. And Fatima picks up on it. And she's like, Andy, what is this? What's wrong? Andy's like, well, I'm going to give love a try. I'm going to go after Robin. And if it doesn't work, at least I can say it. Fatima's like, go get your man, sis. Andy's like, I'm definitely going to get my man. Andy basically gave Fatima the whole monologue in Diary of a Mad Black Woman when Helen told her family that she was going after Orlando. After Andy leaves, Fatima calls Karen because she needs her to sign some papers for Miss Marie. Karen and Pam signed them, but Karen hasn't signed them. Fatima's like, you must not want your money. Karen's like, I definitely want my money, but it was just hard for me to sign on my phone. Karen's like, I could just come over to the law firm and sign a hard copy. Fatima's like, nah, I can just bring the papers to my house and you could come over and sign them. Karen's like, you sure that's okay? Fatima's like, well, wouldn't it be? Karen, she said, don't come over at her house unannounced. She didn't say you can't come over when she invites you. We're in the law firm parking lot. We see Andy walk into her car, all powerful and smiling. She's happy that she's about to go get Robin. Andy's about to get her happily ever after ending, or so she thought. She gets into her car. She's so happy that she's about to go get Robin, and they're about to get their happily ever after. The next thing we know, she's attacked from behind, and there's a white cloth put over her face, and of course the white cloth knocks her out. I think it's Hudson, but it might be Penelope. We never know. Over at Zach and Fatima's, Zach is still working on the suspect board, and Fatima comes home from work, and she's like, Zach, we're still working on this? I thought we said we were done with it. Zach is like, well, I can't be done with it because I really don't think that Jordan did it. Fatima's like, yeah, me either, but what other choice do we have? Zach is like, I really think that it's somebody else, and I think that it's somebody else outside the circle. We kept looking inside the circle. Fatima does something on her phone, and she shows a picture to Zach, and Zach is like, oh, of course. She shows him a picture of Jasmine. Zach is like, something's wrong, I can feel it. Fatima's like, oh yeah, sure, like I'm blood. Something's wrong. Zach is like, no, something's really wrong, I can feel it. Fatima tells Zach that Gary and Andy could still be in danger. The next thing you know, she checks her phone and she realizes that Andy's car is still at the law. But she tells Zach that Andy left the law firm hours ago. Fatima tells Zach to go down to the law firm and check to see if Andy's car is still there and everything else, right? Zach is like, by myself. Fatima's like, yeah, I can't go. The next thing you know, Karen busts to the door and she's like, hello, so they have to turn the suspect board around so that Karen doesn't see it. Zach tries to play it off like he's writing her grocery list on the board. Zach turns around and he asks Karen, what are you doing here? Karen's like, relax, I'm just here to sign some papers. Fatima's like, Zach, can you go do that thing I asked you to do? Zach's like, by myself? Fatima's like, yeah, I'll catch up. Zach is like, okay. So Zach leaves. Fatima tells Karen to have a seat while she goes to grab the papers. Karen starts having discomfort. Fatima comes back. Karen's like, I hope you don't experience the fatigue that I did. Fatima's like, yeah, I don't even look at my ankles like that. Karen signs the papers and she starts having discomfort again. The next thing you know, she's like, Fatima, I think my water broke. Fatima's like, in my kitchen? Karen's like, really? Fatima's like, yeah, I got asked that because the last time you said your water broke, it was just false labor. Karen's like, I'm for real this time, call 911. Fatima calls 911 and nobody answers. Apparently, 911 operators don't answer the phones in Atlanta. So she's like, get me over to the couch and call Zach. Now everybody's in an uproar on Twitter and Facebook because they're like, why did she say call Zach and not Aaron? She said call Zach because that's Zach's house and Zach doesn't want Aaron at. But I'm sure Fatima will call Aaron on the way to the hospital. Over at the airport, Robin's on his way to board his flight to London, so he calls Andy to see if she's coming. He realizes that she's not coming, so he thinks that she doesn't want to be with him. Little does he know that she's fighting for her life right now. So he's basically on this thing where I want to spend the rest of my life with you. I love you. You're the reason I came back. I understand that we're a lot, even though it's a beautiful mess. I understand that we're a lot, and I know that you have to treat yourself first. Robin's like, I'll see you when I see you. Little does he know that she was on her way to you when she got kidnapped. Speaking of kidnapped, Zach pulls up in the law firm parking lot like he ain't got no sense. He hops out the car, bangs on the stairwell door, nobody answers, so he feels defeated. He's like, think. Then he sees Andy's phone on the ground. He He picks it up. He's like, I'm gonna call Fatima. He's like, nah, I can't do that because she got the baby. He hops in the car and he's like, I'm gonna go save her myself. The next thing you know, he speeds out the law firm park. Over at the juice bar, we see Rich, Penelope, and Jordan's pouring up shots for everybody to celebrate the fact that he's out of jail, his sister's out of jail, and Rich is single. Rich is like, Jordan, you gotta stop drinking. Jordan is like, I'm fine, I dodged a bullet, I ain't gotta worry about Andy no more, I'm happy. Penelope's like, Jordan, let me get you to the car. So Penelope goes to put him in the car. She comes back so she can help Rich clean up. They start cleaning up. The next thing you know, we see Rich start talking about Sabrina, and Penelope's like, if she's anything like her friend Annie, you dodged a bullet. Why did Sabrina have to catch a stray? She didn't do nothing to you. Rich is like, it's funny you say that because I feel like I've been shot. Penelope's like, where? He starts pointing to his heart. Then they start reminiscing about high school, and apparently they used to like each other. So they start teasing each other. The next thing you know, Penelope kisses her 2 fingers and she puts it on Rich's chest. Then Rich takes it upon himself and kisses Penelope. No, Penelope's crazy, and she's gonna fall in love. Rich is like, my bad, I didn't mean to do that. Penelope pulls him back in. They kiss again and they start getting down to business all over the juice bar. And Sabrina pops up out of nowhere to bring him the box that she packed of his stuff. So she sees Penelope and Rich get down to business. She just stares for a second and then she drops the box. They hear her and Rich is like, Sabrina. Then Rich goes to run after Sabrina. Rich, what can you say at this moment? She saw you, but she can't really be mad because she just told you to go see other people. But she didn't expect it to be that fast. Over in Gary's office, we see Gary looking at his laptop. The next thing we know, we see Hudson bust through the door. And Gary's like, what part of fire don't you understand? Hudson's like, you're not calling the shots anymore and you haven't for a while. Gary's like, security. Hudson's like, don't even bother calling for them because I gave him off for the night. Gary goes to look for his gun in his desk. Hudson pulls it out and he's like, you looking for this? Hudson's like, you really thought that you could toss me out like I'm some trash. Gary's like, I know this can't be about me firing you. Hudson's like, yeah, you're right. It's not. Hudson's like, so Gary's like, of course I remember you, and I'm tired of people asking me about my memory. Your name is Hudson, and you work for me, and you did my bidding, and I'll give you my gun back. Hudson's like, yeah, that's right. But before that, think about 18 years ago. Gary's like, 18 years ago, what was I in high school? Gary's like, what is this about? Is this about some money? Name your price, and I'll give you a fat check. Gary's like, what is it going to take to get rid of you? Hudson's like, everything that's near and dear to you, including your life. Hudson's like, no, it ain't about no money. And 18 years ago, I was just little Oswald to you and your little jock friends. And the only person that was nice to me was Kimberly Potter, and you took her away from me. It's like, Gary, you just don't understand. The next thing you know, we see Hudson pistol whip Gary, and he's like, shut up, I'm in control now, and you haven't been in control for a while. I've been in control longer than you realize. Hudson's like, even when I was pushing you with cocaine laced with fentanyl, Gary's like, you did what? Hudson's like, yeah, but one thing I can say, you are resilient and you refuse to die. Hudson's like, I've been waiting for this moment a long time. You may think that you suffered enough, but tonight you're going to pay for your sins. I'm going to start by introducing you to somebody, or should I say reintroducing you to somebody. Next thing you know, he opens the door and Jasmine. Gary is like, you crazy F and B. And Jasmine's like, is that the way you want to greet your ex-wife in the middle of your children? Gary's like, you stabbed me. Jasmine's like, yeah, and it's about to get a lot worse for you and not me. Hudson points the gun at Gary again, and that's when Jasmine brings Andy in, and Gary's like, Andy. Next thing you know, we see Jasmine untying Andy, and Andy's like, thank God, thank you. Then she realizes that when she takes the blindfold off, that it's Jasmine. He's like, Jasmine's like, did you miss me? Andy's like, I thought you were in prison. Jasmine's like, well, you thought wrong, B. He's like, Jasmine, then she starts splitting her case, and Jasmine's like, well, if you thought you could say anything to save you, you thought wrong twice. Then Jasmine starts blaming Andy for everything that went wrong in her marriage, and I'm like, Jasmine, you're blaming the wrong person. The one that cheated on you is Gary. But of course you're psychotic and want to blame Andy for it. Gary's like, so now you're Wesson? Jasmine's like, yeah, he knows what it means to be loyal, unlike you. Jasmine's like, I wish you could have saw your face, Gary, when I walked in here. It's almost just as bad as Andy's face when I crashed your wedding. Andy's like, you stabbed Gary? Jasmine's like, yeah, nah. Jasmine's like, you're like a roach, Gary. You refuse to die. You're like one of them roaches with the wings. She's like, you know, I even rode up to the hospital and put air bubbles on your IV thing. Hudson passes her the gun and she's like, best believe there's no rubber bullets in this one. Jasmine's like, you think I'm gonna let you throw me off a parking garage and I'm gonna let it slide? No, this is the time I'm gonna get rid of both of y'all. Jasmine tells Gary that she and Hudson are gonna go to a different country and they're gonna live happily ever after. Hudson turns to Jasmine and he's like, well, you shut up. Then he shoots her and kills her. Then he's like, I don't know how you dealt with her for so long. He's like, now that she's out the way, what was I doing? He's like, oh, I was shooting one of y'all. Gary's like, don't shoot her, shoot me. I'm the one that you want. Hudson's like, no, I want you to feel the same pain that I felt when I lost Kimberly Porter. Then that's when Zach busts into the door. It's like, Andy, and Hudson's like, look who came to Georgia's. I already got one body. Another one won't hurt. So Zach rushes over to Hudson. They start tussling for the gun. Gary joins them, and somebody gets shot. We all think got shot. So it turns out that Miss Marie, Hudson, and Jasmine were working together. Let me know what you guys think about the episode. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, turn on bell notifications. Let me know how y'all felt about the season. Bye!